We've seen Donald Trump, for instance, a month out from taking office, but already sending shockwaves around the world. His latest target is Panama. He's threatening to reimpose US control over the Panama Canal, claiming American vessels are being charged exorbitant fees.
The fees being charged by Panama are ridiculous, highly unfair, especially knowing the extraordinary generosity that has been bestowed to Panama, I say very foolishly, by the United States. This complete ripoff of our country will immediately stop. It's going to stop.
Meanwhile, Panamanian President José Raúl Mulino fired back at Trump's attack, asserting that rules regarding the canal are non-negotiable.
Every square meter of the Panama Canal and its surroundings belongs to Panama and will continue to be. The sovereignty and the independence of our country are non-negotiable.
For more on this story, our news desk editor Jill Disis joined us. And Jill, suffice to say this perhaps wasn't a country or a place that we're expecting to see these tensions flaring between the US and China, but just talk to us about the nuances in this story, because there are a lot of them.
Yes, Belle. So what it seems like Trump is really getting at here, it's not just about what he calls these exorbitant fees that are charged by vessels, but he's also taking issue with what he's saying is this sort of encroachment of control by China and other places. This kind of seems to boil down to the fact that while the canal itself falls under the control of the Panamanian government, there's several ports on both sides of the canal, two of which are controlled by a Hong Kong-based company. So it does seem like what Trump is ultimately implying here is that, there are nations like China that, he says have, sort of outsized control or influence over Panama. I would actually also point out that certainly you've seen China's influence in South and Central America grow pretty substantially over the past several years. I believe it was in 2017 or so when Panama sort of severed diplomatic relationships with Taiwan, obviously in part because of China's contentions over that situation. So you do have some of those concerns about influence that kind of enter the picture here. All that being said, what Trump is saying that he'd want to do here, take control of the Panama Canal again, there's not really a mechanism for doing that. So it really kind of remains to be seen, how serious, an allegation this is, what actual, kinds of things that Trump is implying would happen here. But I mean, as we've seen elsewhere in the world, you have a lot of, political leaders who have, kind of run up against Trump over the last several weeks in particular, and that's kind of, had some reverberations around the world here. So kind of remains to be seen what Trump could do, once he does actually take power in January.
Yeah, and he's really wasting no time, Jill, in kind of upending the global world order. We've also seen how many politicians have been keen to whisper into Trump's ear. What is the sense of China's strategy in all this?
Well, I think when it comes to China, I mean, Xi Jinping certainly has experience dealing with Trump before. These are two leaders that have had meetings in the past. So China isn't, and the rest of the world aren't really entering another Trump administration being completely on the back foot or being completely caught off, guard here. So when it comes to China, I mean, certainly there's this expectation of, we saw obviously the U.S.-China trade war launch during, Trump's first term in office. These anti-China sentiments within Washington, D.C. in particular have really become kind of a bipartisan issue here. I mean, you did see the continuation of Trump-era tariffs during the Biden administration. You actually saw sort of a tightening of the screws in several, aspects, including over semiconductors and other advanced technologies. And so, you have to imagine that Beijing is very aware of the possibility that that could continue under another Trump administration. There's some efforts there to kind of, safeguard its own industries and build up its own industries, but then also, potentially to to actually reach out to Trump and the United States going forward. At this point, you've got a lot of leaders, China or, wherever have you, that understand that, that they still want to play ball with the United States. And that does mean kind of figuring out a way to manage Trump going forward, whether that means additional meetings or, other kind of, sweeteners and everything like that. We'll have to see, especially, once Trump actually enters the White House. But yeah, I mean, these leaders all recognize that, they have to work with Trump here.